Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, assalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay, welcome to the Man's World podcast. Thank you for joining us again this week. And you guys know the drill. Any questions or comments, type them into the chat, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching it later. We'll try to get to your comments and even try to answer them on air. Today, we're going to talk about just a few topics that kind of represent what's going on in today's Western society in regards to marriage, divorce, and we'll give you our insights into why we think that paying attention to the content that we create should help protect you, and save you from a lot of troubles that men are encountering in today's society. So first, I'm going to play this clip that kind of shows where a lot of in again for a Muslim audience, our Muslim ummah in the West is going in this direction as well, and we have to be prepared for it. But this is how people are starting to think. So let me just share that real quick. So it says, if you are a stay-at-home mom, your husband should be paying you a salary. So let's listen to what she has to say.
Mom, you should be receiving a salary from your husband. If you are a stay-at-home mom, otherwise known as a non-compensated working mom, and you are married to a man, your husband, the compensated partner, should be paying for the uncompensated labor. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of pissed off men in the comments, but try to replace you. Try to replace a stay-at-home mom. You're going to be paying for a chauffeur, a chef, a nanny, a project manager for the house. In fact, recent data has shown that stay-at-home moms, non-compensated working parents, if you had to pay them a salary, it would be at least $175,000 a year. So if you are a non-compensated working mom, if you are a stay-at-home mom, you deserve a salary from your husband. I said it.
Okay, so you see there, she says, makes the case for paying stay-at-home moms. And now we don't want to, we've talked about this before, we don't want to belittle or make it seem like being a stay-at-home mom is something to be looked down upon or something that shouldn't be valued and appreciated. However, what's the counter to that? If I start, let's just say hypothetically, Mubarak, you're married to, say, my sister, right? And I come to you and say, hey, listen, from now on, I want to have a conversation right now. I wanted to talk about it. And my sister wants you to start compensating her and paying her for all the stuff she's doing at being your stay-at-home mom. She's taking the kids to the soccer practice. She's cleaning, she's cooking. She's the manager. So, how do we start this? Where should we start? I want to know how much you want to pay her, or what the salary should be that you should pay my sister for being a stay-at-home mom.
Well, for a good quality stay-at-home mom, homemaker, wife, 175,000 is cheap. It's a good deal, and I would say I'll take the deal.
You'll take the deal.
I'll take the deal. 175 grand. As this young lady in the clip says, uncompensated labor. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Let's humor her. Let's humor her and say, okay. $175,000, no problem. Bill me. She said, because if you do think about it, if you got a personal chef, how much is that going to cost? Yeah, if you have a chauffeur who ferries your kids around whenever they need it. Mm-hmm. If you have a house keeper, a nanny, even if you want to throw in there a high-end escort,
right.
if mm-hmm. you look at all the things that they're trying to say is uncompensated labor, okay, that probably comes up to more than 175,000 if you individualize it. But maybe if that person is doing more, then because some wealthy people, they have a butler, and that butler also kind of like cleans up. He also is a chauffeur. He does a lot of different things. He runs errands, and or she might be a she. I think if it's the butler is a man, then
the maid,
the maid or whatever. But anyway, that person might wear multiple hats. Mm-hmm. But I say, if you want to call it uncompensated labor and you want to put a price tag on it, go right ahead.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
take the deal. However,
Oh, okay. Okay. Here we
I
go.
get to bill for my services as well.
Okay. Okay.
So if you're gonna bill, okay, for instance, you got a personal chef. I'm cooking on the food. Okay, are you
Okay.
eating? Because I'm gonna bill you for that meal.
Oh,
The
okay.
meal that you ate, I'm gonna bill you because I'm clearly paying for the food, so I'm gonna
Right.
bill you for that. I'm gonna bill you for rent. Do you have a room that you stay in? You got a closet? Do you use the bathroom services? I'm gonna bill you for the rent. I'm gonna bill you for gas. I'm gonna bill you for electricity. I'm gonna bill you for internet. I'm going to bill you for, you know, the water.
Hmm.
I'm going to bill
Okay.
you for. Do you use any of my vehicles that I'm paying for? I'm going to bill you for that. I'm going to bill you for rent or lease. You can rent it or lease it or however you want to do it, but I'm going to bill for that. By the time I finish billing for this uncompensated labor, it's going to be more than 175. I mean, think about this. How much, if we want to talk about, just the, how much should you be billed for sometimes having to listen to some of the conversations or, that your wife likes to have.
Like, let's. All right. Hold on. Wait. All right, you're on the clock.
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
mean, think about how much your business or your job or your place of employment pays you per minute or per hour to be somewhere and to do something.
Yep.
And then when your wife then says this uncompensated laborer says, "Hey, come with me to the thing here. I want you to go with me, whatever it might be, and just to hang out." You actually don't want to do it, but hey, this is my wife. I'm gonna go with her or whatever. I'll
Right.
take you here. I'll do there. I'll spend this time. I'll do this extra, whatever. Now think about that. You're doing something that you necessarily would do somewhere else. Can you bill for that? Think about
Right.
how much you would act if you just took whatever your salary is and applied it to whenever you did something that you really, you're just doing it for them,
Right.
The uncompensated labor, as this young lady said, would be off the charts. And so I guarantee you that this lady in the clip, and there's many women who think like this, they get tricked into this mindset. And it's almost like a kid, right? You know how your
Yeah.
kids be like, "Hey, let's just get this." They don't think about, okay, the cost or whatever. It's like, they just like,
Yep.
let's just get it.
Right.
This is the type of mindset of a child. And unfortunately, some women, they think like that, where you're like, how in the world, if a woman is married and she's not working, and you're considering the work she's doing in the house is uncompensated labor, do you realize for her to even be able to do that job takes someone else laboring to make it happen? So I guarantee you this is probably a young lady who's not married, or if she is married, she's like the lady in the clip where the guy asks, "Is your husband happy?" And she's like,
Yeah.
she's probably one of those people who the husband's not happy at all, or she's not married. But I'll flip the question to you: Is
Yep.
she said 175,000? So, Dr. Griffin, what price tag would you put on? I'm talking about a quality, husband, a who's a good provider, emotionally stable, healthy, strong, good father, good husband, all those things. What would you put the price tag on? Just
Man,
average for a good
first,
husband.
first, I'm gonna say that $175,000 bull crap. First of all, I'm gonna just go out and say like this. Let's talk about like the average income for an American household is what? It's not $175,000, right? So let's just be clear about that. But just keep it just so we're keeping it on the same type of like level playing field. If a stay-at-home mom is $175,000 a year, right? And we seen a clip last week or the week before where we talked about all these things that a traditional stay-at-home mom does is not like what it used to be back, even 20, 30 years ago, right? So, and I would say on average that a stay-at-home mom altogether, being generous, spends about 5 hours at the most a day, like on full time. I'm actually working and doing something and engaged in like doing something to help the household, not just myself. And I would say the average, if they're in that situation, that man also is spending about, I'll say at least, we're talking about at most on the woman's side and at least on the man's side who's working full time. That's 8 hours a day, right? So you're talking, almost about, 1.5 times more. So now we're talking about up around $250,000, $300,000 for a man. So we can easily get to like a man doing that, supporting that uncompensated stay-at-home mom is worth at least twice as much as $175,000. I mean, because like you said, okay, what's more expensive, right? Paying for someone, like paying for like an Uber chauffeur, an Uber, or buying a car. It's cheaper to pay for an Uber, right? You can just pay for somebody like whatever, it's $20 to go to get a trip. But to buy a car, to pay for the insurance, to pay for the gas and all that costs more. Everything that the guy is providing for that woman to do her stay-at-home job is actually worth more and costs more than what she's doing with those accommodations. And let's think about, I want to think about just the things that the men do, right? One of the most looked down upon jobs is the job, or jobs in just a category, are jobs that people don't want to do. In the household, who does those jobs? The husband. Garbage collectors get paid very well. So how much are you going to pay me for taking out the trash? Right? How much are you going to pay me for shoveling the sidewalk? When you hear that noise, right? Now, personal security guard, bodyguard, they get a lot of money. When I go and check that out, I put it on the clock. All right, this is going to be my $2,000 an hour job. I'm going to go check that sound out that I heard downstairs. Like, we can keep going and going and going. But like you said, if we get into this mentality, like, it's going to, one, you're not going to have a relationship, because if I'm paying you for this uncompensated labor, I can also replace you and maybe pay someone else can apply for your job and say, hey, I can do what she's doing better. And I can say, oh, and cheaper. Oh, and cheaper too? Oh, you know what? It's a free market. Hey, sorry, honey. I've been paying you for the last 10 years. It's a different market. I can get someone younger and cheaper to do the same exact thing that you're doing.
Exactly.
Right?
And I would say that if a woman is in a position to where she can be how this lady explained, where you're uncompensated labor, you're in a position where someone provides food and shelter and your ability to just use transportation and have shelter and cook and have a place that you're responsible for cleaning up or whatever. That tells a story that you have a very capable and sufficient husband on your hands, and you should be not only extremely happy to have him, but you should be very careful in making sure that you can keep him, because a lot of people don't have that, including the lady who was talking. She probably doesn't have that. So you have something that is not available to everybody. You should be grateful. You should be happy. You should be appreciative, and you should really work hard on trying to make sure you keep that job, that you keep that uncompensated labor, and not fumble the bag.
Yeah, and this is we're going to touch on this in a lot of topics that we come up with, that this idea that somehow if I'm staying at home, living in a house, being fed, clothed, entertained, and we keep going down the list, that somehow I'm still owed something, right? Because that's exactly what the mentality is. And this is what the mentality that plays into even like when we talk about divorces, the whole idea of like, oh, I sacrificed all this so that you can go work and take care of me. Doesn't make sense. I did this so you could take care of me. And now I need some of that while you are being compensated. You are being compensated by having a place to live, food to eat, internet so that you can go online and make stupid clips. Like you're being compensated at everything that you do, and they just don't see it like that. Like it's something that's like this entitlement culture that we have in modern society. Like, I'm just entitled to this. I should have this. No, everything, like you said, like a kid, No, that costs money. Money doesn't grow on trees. Like my kids say, like, "Oh, can we just do this?" I'm like, "No, we don't have the money. Well, just use your card." Like the cards is some magic thing that's like, "Yo, it's free. I just use the card." Like, no, it's money.
Just use your card. Yeah, that's definitely how the kids think. All you got to do, if you have the card, it it just stuff appears.
Yes, yes. But on that, we have on the flip side a positive note, a positive video that was more in line. But we'll play the video, but we'll also get into some of the comments that were made in response to this lady's video. Oh, let's go ahead and.
I think divorce means losing half their wealth. Let's be clear. Yes, finances are their responsibility in marriage, but ladies, we have no right to their wealth in divorce. In Islam, we get our mahr and maintenance during iddah. That's it. Not half his house, not half his paycheck. That's the Western system. That's not Islam. Ladies, remember, we can't demand our rights while denying their rights. Reality check, protect your rights, have it in writing before you get married that both in marriage and in divorce you will conform to Islam. Because if it's not in writing, it's already too late. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Men are upset. They pay all the bills in marriage and they think divorce means losing half their wealth. Let's be clear. Yes.
So she makes a very, very good point about, men are upset because they pay for everything during the marriage. And then when they get divorced in the West, they're losing half their wealth. So which is true. Like, men are upset about that. Oh, I can't pull up the comments, but in the gist, the comments were kind of like going at her. And this is from the Muslim perspective. So there's Muslim women going at her, basically saying, like, the whole the greatest myth of all time, like his money is my money and my money is my money, like saying all those types of things. Even men in their simping, like, no, sister, half of what I have is her. Like, obviously single men try to get married in the comment section. But it's a real issue that, especially even Islamically, where we should know better, that women are kind of still thinking like this. It's good to hear this sister have the right perspective of this. But I would say that still a little bit naive, like we all were at one point, that thinking having this in writing is somehow going to protect you from the Western, laws and Western machine that is what happens during divorce.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's a prenup, you're cooked. I mean, it doesn't matter if you get 10 muftis and 11 maulanas and and 12 ulama to witness, and if that lady's mind is made up to where she wants half and she's in the West, she's probably gonna get it. So I mean, it's the lady. Now I'm sure they're gonna call this young lady a pick-me. Oh, she just wants the men to jump on her side, which maybe maybe not, but she's right. The thing is that putting it in writing won't matter. But the thing that really about this clip that was the most interesting to me is the comments of the delusion, the delusion about these ladies and their rationale for why they deserve half of whatever, saying, I put in all this time and energy and effort, and then he leave. Yeah, I'm gonna get half. Or they're saying that I sacrificed, all this time during the marriage. So yeah, I'm getting half.
Yep.
And, it's a thing where if you have, I put it this way, one of the biggest indicators, it's not a guarantee, but one of the biggest indicators for if a woman will try to take half of your property is if she feels like she is reluctantly, being a wife or a housewife or having kids or taking care of the kids or any of that stuff. If she's the stay-at-home mom or whatever, and she's reluctantly doing it, and she complains about it from time to time, you as a man, and this is the Man's World channel, I'm telling you, you in your mind should already know, if this relationship does not last, she will try to take half.
Yeah.
Because it's she's doing it begrudgingly, and it might be just a mindset thing where she just doesn't understand, or maybe she doesn't realize that where she's at and what she's doing is actually better and more fulfilling for her, and so if you have a woman who, and that's why you got to look at it in the beginning. If you say, hey, what are your goals? What are your dreams, or what are your ambitions or whatever? And if none of it has to do with having, raising kids, house making, and all that things, that's understandable. There's a lot of women like that. Hey, listen, I'm not a homemaker type. So you have to understand that you can't then, after the fact, force her into that thing if that's what you want.
Right.
If you want a homemaker, if you want a homemaker, or you want a go-getter who works at the house, or you want a hybrid, because there's some people that are hybrids, they can do both very well. They're very rare. Very, very rare. There's a lot of pretenders. There's a lot of them that pretend, yeah, I'm Harriet the housemaker. Nah, they listen, no, they're not. But you cannot force that square peg into a round hole after the fact. You have to know and understand this woman is reluctantly having children. She's reluctantly, being a stay-at-home wife or whatever. Yeah, she's going to be looking for half your stuff. So I would say you avoid those types as much as you can, because it's not likely to, if it ends, to be in your favor. Your life could be, turned upside down because of it. So, but these women, were in the comments, they're like, how they're justifying to get half of the man's stuff, as if they weren't benefiting that whole time. And so it is something where I can't even understand how almost every, and I know the comment section is not a representation of everyone, but it's a good barometer,
Right.
that women, they just can't understand how they can't have half the stuff. And like we said, they're being compensated during the relationship. You are being compensated. And from the first clip where the lady was saying that they're uncompensated workers, that feeds into why they feel like they're getting half, because they feel like they're not getting anything out of it.
Yeah. And also, just to kind of piggyback off what you said about, avoid those types, and people that have been following our content are probably like, well, you guys said, don't legally get married. Shouldn't that just protect you? Well, no, because if you do follow our advice, you're not getting legally married. So that protects you legally from them taking half your wealth, right? In most states. If you live in a Commonwealth state, remember, if you live in a Commonwealth state or a common marriage law, that doesn't apply to you. You got to move somewhere else to get married, right? But even still, like the idea of like, I'm owed something, right? I'm owed something for this sacrifice or whatever, and I'm going to get it out of you. If they can't get it out of you financially through the courts by getting half your wealth, half your assets, or whatever, they're going to find a different way to get it out of you. And that could be with your children. That could be with, child support. And there's the custody child support thing. That's an issue in every state you go to. It doesn't matter if you have children with that person. So I would even go one step further, that, like Mubarak said, try to avoid those type of people. If you see those qualities, like when you're talking and thinking about getting married, if you are married to somebody, do your best to avoid having children with them. Like, that's not the person you have kids with. Or if you're just already like, dang, I already made both mistakes, right? You have to start taking steps, as we mentioned before, to protect yourself, right, from the negative consequence. And hopefully that negative consequence, or that negative action of divorce and separation, and you being, transgressed upon and taken advantage of, doesn't actually happen. So like we said, there's more and more. If you look at the comments of these types of videos, you'll see the mindset, and it's especially disturbing living in the West when you see that a lot of these comments are Muslim men and women leaving these things. And it's almost like, especially in, I would say, in the Western Muslim world, it seems like we're almost worse than just the regular, non-Muslim Westerner who's like, oh yeah, I'll be happy being a pick-me, stay-at-home wife and, mother and all that. It's really discouraging.
So let me ask you a question, Dr. Griffin. If in a hypothetical scenario, a wife, she's doing everything that she's supposed to do. She's nice to her husband. She takes care of him. She's good to him. She's respectful, along with, and I say that stuff first, along with all the standard, homemaker things, taking care of the
Right.
kids, cooking, cleaning, running errands, and, taking care of the kids and all that stuff.
Right.
She's been married, 10, 15, 20 years. And for all intents and purposes, she's a good wife. She's doing everything that she knows of that makes her husband happy. She's not one of those people where you ask her husband, is he happy? And she's like, all right, well, what do you ask me that for? She's like, yeah, I think he's happy because,
Right.
I asked him, he says he's happy or whatever. And then he divorces her and marries someone else. What do you say about the woman like that? Because I'm saying that because this is in the mindset of all these women. That's it.
Yeah,
She was doing everything and he just up and left. So what would you say about that scenario? Does she not deserve some compensation? I mean, she put everything into it. She's not, she's 20 years older. Maybe she got married at 25. She's 45 now. She's not going to be as, she's got a bunch of kids. She's not going to be what, as far as attractive, to, a male suitor she was before. So what compensation does he have if she's done everything right and he just ups and goes, gets someone, 25 years younger and moves on with his life?
So right off the bat, I'll say you have to really drill this in your mind, sisters and men who think this way as well. She doesn't deserve anything. No compensation. No, that great. See, the thing is with marriage, right? Both parties are sacrificing and doing what they're supposed to do in a marriage to make the marriage success, right? Unless there's something that's like in writing, something that's illegal, like business or something that's happened. As far as the marriage and the household function, both parties are doing what they have to do to make success. Now, you can argue one side or the other, like, okay, the husband's doing more or the wife's doing more. Everybody can have that argument. But that's the first thing. You're like not owed anything right off the top. However, if you are married to this man, you were just this perfect wife that's done everything and taken care of him and made him happy and all that. Well, he wouldn't be getting a divorce, I would say, like that, unless something's mentally wrong with him, right? Okay, so he wouldn't be getting a divorce. Let's say he does for some reason. Someone just comes and sweeps him away and whatever happens, whatever scenario you can come up with that creates this highly unlikely scenario that he's divorcing a good woman and a good wife. Odds are is that he's going to do something as far as charity goes to help you along your way. Most men would do that. Like, well, she was good to me. She took care of me. I'm not going to make it difficult for her. I'm going to help her. Right. And this is what women need to understand about the psychology of men is that this is what we're meant to do. This is our mindset. We do it with strangers. And especially do it with people that we know and that we actually like feel indebted to or feel like we owe something to, right? We're going to take care of women. Women are the damsel in distress, right? We'll drive down the highway and see a guy broke down on the highway, and if it's the guy, we'll keep on going. If it's a woman, doesn't matter if she looks, like we see a woman automatically, oh, she needs help. I need to go help her, right? That's just in our psychology. So he's going to help. The third thing I would say in that situation is that don't worry, because you're such a great woman. You're going to easily get married and find another good man that's going to do the same thing for you. So long story short, nothing is owed. There's no compensation that should be done besides what is Islamically required, the 3 months, take care, whatever, until the iddat is over. And then you go along your way. Now, what couples should be doing in every situation, men and women, a man should be running his family as if, what if I'm not here tomorrow? Mm-hmm. Right? You have to think that way. What if I'm not here tomorrow? We think about it with our kids, like, oh, who's going to take care of my kids? Who's the godparents and all that, right? But you also have to think about it with your wife. She may be a widow, right? And you should put some mechanisms in place that if there is something that happens that takes you out of the picture, that your wife, your widow, or in this situation, your ex-wife, has some means to actually not be dependent and be out there struggling and all that. Whether that's, whether that's a savings account, whether that's like, okay, I got a house, and whatever it is, whatever that looks like for you and your financial situation. Women should be thinking the same way. Instead of just living in the moment, hey, I need some money to go buy a pocketbook. Hey, I see some money to go buy this and that. You should also be thinking like, I should be developing some savings, right? Because what if you're not there? If your family's living check to check, right? And something happens to you, right? At least you're like, oh, I have savings that my kids can benefit from, my widow or husband can benefit from. Or in the rare chance that I'm such a perfect wife and such a great woman and did everything right, that my husband unjustly divorces me, then I have something that I can fall back on.
Mhm.
And that, so like, in essence, that's what I would say, like what needs to be done in those situations.
Yeah. And just to add to that, I think that a lot of women are caught between the two. And we see this a lot where they they either want to be a working woman or they want to be a housewife. They kind of like, when I'm not feeling like working, I just want to be a homemaker or whatever. But if you're going to say, listen, my career is going to be as a wife, as a mother, and a homemaker, and I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be working out in the workforce for the most part. This is what I'm going to do. Then you have to really look at it as a career, and you have to look at it as, what's going to secure my longevity or whatever. You know how at my job they have yearly performance reviews or whatever, where they
Mhm.
kind of, sit you down. Okay, this is what you've been doing great job, keep it up or whatever. But I would say for a wife who is in a situation where your husband is the breadwinner, he's making all the money and he's making the decisions, and you're really, you're kind of an employee there. you
Mhm.
know, um, you should look at it as, if this is what I'm banking, you have all your eggs in that basket for the most part. If you're going to do that, then you have to make sure that things are secure. As Dr. Griffin pointed out, it's extremely rare for a sane, good, decent man to just walk off and leave a woman who's doing everything to make him happy.
Mhm.
So that's why a lot of people, they don't like to do it. It makes them feel uncomfortable when they say, you know, ask their husband or their spouse, say, hey, are you happy? You know, um, you know, uh, what am I doing that you like or what I don't like, or where can I improve? If you do that, it takes some humility. But if you do that, I guarantee you won't be one of those women who ever just up and get left blindsided. I'm not saying that, he might not, have
Do
the hots
something
for
else.
somebody else.
Right.
But you know what I mean? He will still, a woman, and you have the advantage. A woman can make an environment for a man, regardless of where he goes and what he does or whatever, to where you are what home is for him, and he's going to be very comfortable with you, around you, um, with your food, with your environment, with everything. And
Yeah.
I mean, I could go on and on. I know we don't got this topic might be something that we can explore more later, but it's something where you really have to look at when your husband is in your environment. It is one where it's like, man, I just like being here. You ever go like either a vacation spot, or some people like the beach, some people like different, restaurants or places like to sit and relax. Your environment, wherever you're at, when your husband is with you, around you, it is a place where he's like, man, this is really, this is where I feel at home. And if you can create that atmosphere, no, he's never going to leave you. He's not going to
Mhm.
leave you no matter what. And it's
Yep.
definitely possible. But I think, for the women who are like, I definitely should get half of it, then you need to be really focusing on making sure that you don't lose your husband.
Yeah.
But I think it's like, I'm just going to be me. I got my hooks in. If he does leave me, I'm taking half. I mean, it's like a
Yeah.
hostage situation.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And there was a fatwa. I meant to like get more information on it, but the essence of it was, and it's related to that one of those clips that our boy Yasser Qadi, Dr. Yasser Qadi, put out with one of his crazy fatwas, where, well, and he wasn't the only one, but he took a Amja ruling, and I think he kind of took it out of context, and people were supporting it, and well, he wasn't the only one, by the way. But anyway, the gist of it was that certain people were saying that in the West we can adjust fiqh to our culture and yada yada yada. Islam says that the norms of the people and all that. Which there is some validity to, we follow the norms of our society for certain things, right? Not when they contradict what Islam says, though. Right? So, but
Yeah.
the idea was that pretty much, just like we were talking about in the situation where a lady that was doing everything that she was doing, and her doing everything she's supposed to do as a wife, and the husband divorced her. So, and they were saying in these cases, the husband should have to pay some kind of alimony, right? And they went and they were referencing this, one of these MJA rulings. And I looked a little bit into the MJA ruling, and pretty much what they're classifying is that it was an unjust divorce, right? The lady saying like, he's divorcing me for no reason. And MJA on that particular case basically made the man like, hey, you got to give her something, right? That was their ruling. Now, I don't know we'll get to the details of the case, but you can't take one case, first of all, and then say, oh yeah, this is the norm for everybody, right? And two, like, I don't know if that guy just said, okay, I agree, I'll give her this. Like, he might have been filthy rich, like, yeah, I'll hit her off with this. Or if this was her 3-month, like, compensation, whatever. But we have to get past this idea of like where we're taking laws of the land as like the norms of our society. That's not the norms. Our laws are created out of men, right? Because if you went by the norms of society, the norms of society are what people would do if there were no laws in place, right? That's the norm, okay? So if you went to that and you said, okay, in Western society, if men and women were to divorce, would the majority of men agree to give half their wealth or pay alimony for years and years? No, which is clear that that's not the norm of society. That's not our cultural norm, right? They instilled a law to force people to do it because they thought it was a benefit to society or whatever their justifications were. Which really the justification is that it's a benefit to the state. That's why they enforce it. That's the wizard behind the curtain, is that it benefits the state. It benefits the government to have custody, alimony, child support, and all these different things. So that's my rant on this whole like, yeah, it's the norms of the land. We follow the laws of the land, because there was comments like that in there too. Like, it's the law of the land. Like, no, we don't do that.
Yeah. So let me ask you a quick question before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
What would be a scenario in which you would say, okay, this has reached the point where I would say the husband should compensate his ex-wife, the wife that he's divorcing, with something? Like, what would be something that you would say, okay, this is the scenario, and I would say that this should happen? Because the norm would be, no, he's not going to give her anything. So what would be that outlier or that extreme situation where you say, okay, this is where at least we could see he needs to, pony up for at least some of what he has, split it up?
Yeah, so I would say like that first, you would have to say, you have to look at the woman and look at the consequences of the divorce, right? Their divorce, what situation is she going to be in? And pretty much you can use as a benchmark is if she's going to be like a ward of the state and cause like a need for the society, the community to take care of her.
Why is that his problem?
What's that?
Why is that his problem though?
No, so that's what I'm saying. Like that's the first, like, one. There's got to be multiple things I think are gonna put in this like this pot of like, okay, you should do something. So that's like she's gonna be a ward of the state. That's one. The second condition that I think has to exist is that the man is in a situation where he's wealthy, extremely wealthy, right? Helping her out wouldn't necessarily hurt him, right? So that's the second condition. The third condition I would say is that the amount that he would give to her, I don't say four conditions, the amount that he would give to her would be the amount, right, to basically take care of her for that EDAT period, which is, depending on what type of divorce it is required anyway, right? And the fourth condition would be that it's clearly an unjust divorce, right? Like he's just running through babes, marrying them. She has, and he's just like, I didn't do nothing wrong. He just woke up one day and this dude just married me and went and married the blonde head fat lady down the street because she's white, blonde hair, blue eyes, right?
It was tax season.
I would say maybe in those situations you look at like, okay, it's not going to hurt this guy to do anything because the amount we're asking for is, we're not trying to make her rich, right? You're trying to find a way that she doesn't become a burden on the society because she has nothing else. Like, I guess that's another condition you could throw in there, like has no father, has no brothers, like one of those like rare situations that she has really no means, she has no sons, whatever the situation is. And the amount that you're asking from this rich, wealthy husband who unjustly divorced her is really like a drop in the bucket. And it's like, hey, give her something so that we don't have to do it. Like I can't do it as the mom. So, dude, you got to do it, and you got to give zakat anyway. So we're just gonna take your zakat money and give it to her, like something like that.
If I was representing this guy, man, I would be like, "What that got to do with us? That would just keep being my response. What that got to do with us?" No, but
you're right though, because I can't really think of too many situations where
and so that's why I asked you, because I was thinking, like, is there any scenario? And there really isn't. There really isn't the time you're with him, you got to take advantage of it. And you're going to benefit, especially if he's wealthy. You should be benefiting from that wealth. The only reason that I would say that she should be compensated with some of his estate or his wealth or something like that is if she really was an unpaid laborer. For instance, you have some people, they will start a business and they will have the wife work as a cashier or doing stocking or inventory, different stuff in the shop. She's not paid. She just comes in and does it, and she kind of has her own little schedule or whatever, but she comes in and she works. And it's just because, hey, this is my wife and that's what we do. And I probably, like, if me and my wife, like, she wouldn't have it, like, that's what she would do. Yeah, I'll go ahead and go to the gym. I'll run the shop for while you're going or whatever. That's normal.
Yeah.
Now, if he didn't got rich and it's like, okay, you're out of here. Then if I were representing the woman, I would say, hey, listen, I helped to build this business and I was there working and I wasn't, compensated. You could say, well, now on the flip side, you would try to say, well, that's just part of, being married to me. But that's where you could say, hey, listen, she was grinding while you were coming up with this business.
Yeah.
Peel off some of that. Or, if it was a situation where she had to, during the marriage, she gave up some of her rights in order for him to run the business. For instance, he's running the business out of the house, and she's got to, basically, split half of her area for, it's like sometimes you might fill the whole garage up with, inventory.
Yeah.
That's happened before where somebody's being harmed by this. So these are some things that maybe she can be like, hey, listen, I was a participant in you gaining this wealth and this kind of how I did that type of argument could fly where then you can get some of that. But just because, hey, listen, I was here or whatever, I mean, I'm sorry, I can't really see any way that a woman can get half just because they were married, unless she was a participant in gaining any of that wealth, and along those best.
No, that's a very good point, because even in the situation I was mentioning, like if I was the mufti or qadi in that situation, it would be like an offer or like trying to persuade the husband like, hey man, come on, just do something, out of your charity or whatever. But like you mentioned, you see all the time where you go into, like, whether it's like the local meat store or restaurant, where it's the wife that's doing everything, bagging everything, stocking the shelves, running the cash register. And you see the husband in the back, with the friends sipping tea or whatever. It's like, dude, that's her business.
Yeah, she's in there working, man. I see it. Yeah, we see it a lot, man. We see it a lot, and that's one reason why they seem to come up too, because they it's a family affair. Usually they get in and will help without reservation. Some of us, the wife might be like, you got to pay me. I need to get a salary, otherwise I'm not showing up.
Like in those situations, like you mentioned, it's there's a strong case that the lady could make where I did this because it was an investment that would benefit our family. That's why I wasn't asking for anything. But there's a strong case that could be made there. But I guess one of the lessons we could get out of this, especially this is the Man's World podcast, but women can benefit from it too, is that we did a whole show on this. You got to really think before you, because if you're the one asking for the divorce, there's no case really at all for you to be asking for anything. No. And there's a lot that this is one of the things that women really have to think about. Just like, here where we're looking at not only thinking about your financial condition, but we're also thinking about women that have children. There's some things you need to know about before you go get a divorce and then also seek to get remarried. Muslims, if you're going to be a good Muslim, like you're going to lose custody of your children.
Mhm.
But for those women that, go against that and they just, they don't have to follow the law of the land when it's convenient for them instead of Allah's law, and they want to keep their children, like they should know some things. So first, because we mentioned it multiple times about how in those situations where children are being raised under their mother's roof, they're actually at higher risk of being abused. Okay. And so, like, for instance, stepfathers. Some studies suggest that stepfathers are more likely to abuse children than biological fathers, which is okay. That's multiple studies showing that stepfathers are more likely to abuse than biological fathers, obviously. This is known as the Cinderella effect. For example, one study found that households with a stepfather had twice the risk of child abuse compared to households with both biological parents. So this is a situation where the mother is in the house with her children, but she's also seeing that the man that she married, the stepfather, is abusing the children and allowing it to happen. Okay.
And I'll
go ahead.
just say to that, there's, I mean, I've seen some times, where we've known people who have not only where the mother, the biological mother with the stepfather in the house, where the stepfather did abuse the children, but because the mother didn't want to lose that father, she in some cases tried to overlook it, and even when they were caught, defended, even though they were the guy was abusing their children. So it's one of the clear signs of the wisdom of Islam, and why when the mother remarries, that the best place for those children to be is with their father. Because it's just, it's something, this statistic comes out, we're like, oh wow, that's terrible, but Islam had already preempted that, by saying best place, put him with the father, regardless of what the situation is, unless it's something that's that's going to be terrible for them, but put him with the father because that's a safer place, it's a better place. But the mother's heart might not be there, but in reality it's better, and these statistics show it.
Yeah, and this next one should be very eye-opening for the women, and I mean this is for the men as well, because you have to protect your children in these divorce situations, because even men that are thinking about the guy who's unjustly divorcing his wife, you're putting your children at a certain risk, right? So, and you have to really think about this. Like, some studies suggest that mothers are more likely to abuse their children if they have a partner who is not the child's biological father. For example, one study found that Brazilian mothers were more likely to mistreat their children if they had a stepfather. So this is the actual biological mothers are more likely to abuse their own children when they bring a stepfather or a new husband that is not the parent's father into their lives, right? And this is why, in Islam, right, the mother loses custody of the children unless she marries someone that's mahram to the children. Right, because it's like the blood thing, the family thing. Like, that's one of the exceptions. Like, okay, you married so and so, who is the biological father's uncle or something like that. I don't know, but we don't really get into that to the West, so we don't have to worry about that type of stuff. But just think about that. The mother is more likely to abuse her own children when she remarries.
And so why do you think that is?
Well, there could be multiple reasons. Like, so one, it could be that she's also suffering from abuse. But really, one of the big things is that she's married to somebody, and that now becomes her priority, right? At least for the honeymoon period, right? But usually for the length of the marriage, that the person that she now marries becomes the priority, okay? And the kids are the ones that are neglected. And there's a lot of, like, we're going to have a whole series on this, specifically with the Muslim women that are living in the UK, and also certain cultures. But in almost every culture, there's a certain stigma that comes with being married and divorced, and then married and divorced again, right? And here's one that people don't really pay attention to. in divorce situations, whether it's the man or the wife, especially someone that was divorced against their will, right? Whether the woman left the man or the man left the woman, the person who was left is usually stuck in a situation where their whole life becomes about like proving or not proving something to that ex, right? So say for instance, whatever, we're married to sister so and so. I divorce her, and then as I'm divorcing you because you're this and that, and no man's gonna stand for that, right? No man's gonna deal with you, or I'm the best thing you ever had or ever will get, whatever those statements are. So now the woman gets in the situation where everything she's doing in that new relationship is really with just her ex in mind. I don't want to figuratively or imaginary hear "I told you so." So they go extra hard in preserving those relationships and overlooking that abuse of their children, just because they're selfish and they don't want to be like, oh, look, she lost another man. Oh, look, I should have gave custody to all these, avoiding the "I told you so," that they'll do these things. So there's a lot of people. Those are some that come to mind.
Yeah, and so when you have the stepmother, the situation where the biological mother being more likely to abuse her own children, is I think it's because, like with your children, right? There's a lot of stuff that you will put up with and overlook with your own children, or you have a lot more patience because you have some love there. But when you have a stepfather coming in, listen, that stepfather said, "I'm gonna treat these kids like my own," and all that. I mean, listen, you have the rare person, but really they're only there because of the mother. It's an attachment to the mother, and he's only good to those children because he knows the mother. Like, he would have no relationship with those children whatsoever if he didn't know the mother. And so with her trying to not be in a situation like Dr. Griffin said of "I told you so," I told you that nobody can stay with you, whatever. So she's motivated to maintain a relationship. That stepfather that's there doesn't necessarily, he might be getting more annoyed or with those children. He might be more likely to abuse them. So to stay on or to be on the same page with him, she will either preemptively abuse them or continue that environment of abuse so that she stays in line with him to keep the relationship. So,
and the last one just gives a statistic about there's more antagonistic relationships with stepfathers and children, which, I mean, that just plays into the whole abuse thing. But I wanted to mention this real quick, which came to mind when you were talking about that, is that so like how we treat our own children. And so you're a coach, right? You've coached in soccer and different sports that with your kids. So you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. Little Timmy on the soccer team just does something stupid, right? Kicks the ball out of bounds or whatever. And I'm going to be like, whatever, Timmy. Get back out there. My son goes out there and does the stupid little kick. I'm like, what the boy? You better not ever, like, you're going to be harder on your own kids. And it's not a thing of like abuse or whatever. It's that you actually want better for your kids. I really don't care if Timmy sucks, to be quite honest, right? I care if my kids suck or that they get like the things that they want. So like we're naturally like, and I deal with it and I notice I do this and I have to actually combat it, right? Because I'm a ref. So a lot of times I'll ref with my nephews, people I know, right? Family members. And there's a thing that you try so hard to be impartial that you actually start being biased to the other side. You see what I'm saying? So like in that situation where you have a step parent, you can have a mother who's like, and say there's other kids that he's bringing to the household. I don't want to make it look like I'm being favored to my kids. So you'll see in a lot of situations where the biological parent actually treats their own kids worse than the other kids that are not their kids because they don't want to appear biased. But like you said, it all boils down to like, I want to basically keep my husband or keep him happy, which all falls under the umbrella of, you have a new priority. Your new husband is not your kids. So let the person that their priority is always going to be their kids be the primary caretaker of those kids. It seems like common sense, but that goes.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'll just say this. It was one that just came to mind when we were talking about that, where it was a lady who we knew. She and her daughter was like a teenager. And when her husband was caught that he was, abusing the daughter,
Right.
molesting her or whatever, she blamed the daughter.
Mm.
She blamed her own daughter. It's your fault. Were being a teenager or whatever. And, basically blamed her for, tempting him and, accepting or allowing or whatever. You knew this was, I'm like, and she basically wrote it off as he's a man, but you facilitated this. And so
Yeah.
while everybody was like, all over him about, the situation, she was like, not only defended it, I think she even, they even like ran away and eloped together. She just like, forget the kids. Like he was on the run. She went with him and left the kids.
Man, crazy.
It's just crazy, man.
Crazy, man. That's crazy. And because we have this going on in this society we live in, living in the West, I mean, this is just a quick little one, but people should kind of pay attention to this, especially for those that are thinking about, like, developing a family, settling down, these sorts of things. But
how many people are leaving? U.S. citizens are relocating abroad in record numbers, but the United States does not release any information or any data so that you can track it. But the numbers do exist. When you move abroad, you register with your local consulate and you register for.
So she goes into details about how to track down this information and statistics, which we really don't need to know for the purposes of the show. But just to show that there are people, a lot of people nowadays in the United States that are choosing to leave, whether it's, Muslims going to Muslim majority countries, or Muslims and African Americans going to different African countries, people going to Mexico, and people just going to all these different countries and are leaving America for various reasons, religious reasons, financial reasons, legal reasons, whatever it is. But I just wanted to bring that up to like show that it's not like living in America or a Western society is not your only choice for your future. Right. And I would put this out there, and we should probably do like a whole show on like to hijra or not, right? Just to go over the pluses and negatives. There is a certain benefit being American and going to other countries as an American, but also having the safety ability to just come back whenever you want.
Yeah, we probably do need to do a show on that because I'm like, listen, I've been to multiple countries. You've been to multiple countries, and I would say before I started to travel outside of America, I was like, I had this like negative view of America. Like I'm like, okay, we here, but America, they this, that, and other.
Yeah.
They got your issues, man. Listen. After you spend a couple months somewhere else or whatever, you start to love America. You start to be like, you know what? Hey, I miss you, baby. I'm sorry. Because it's just some of the things that are very, very standard for us. I'm talking about like the living environment, some of just the standard at least government institutions, or like we take for granted roads and or the sewer system and the electricity working. I mean, could you imagine living in a place where the electricity just goes out randomly constantly, and like you might get 2 hours of electricity for the day, and and things like this. So there's a lot of things about other countries that even in the Muslim world where it's just the standard of living, and it's not just about the standard of living, but some those things I don't think people are really they don't see that. Like you see, oh wow, that country, and they'll show you the countryside, and they'll show you some of the agriculture, and they'll show you some of the people and the food or whatever, but that apartment that they in, the plumbing situation is horrendous, and the electricity don't work all the time, and it just there's a lot to it. So I'll just say this in short: if you are an American citizen, there's not going to be very many places that are going to be better for you as a standard of living than America if you are able to make a certain amount of money. Right? If you're able to make pretty much like above the median, or at least middle class, or upper middle class, really, then America's going to be the best place for you. If you're very very rich, like if you're a multimillionaire or something like that, it won't matter. You can go anywhere,
no
and
different.
that money
Yeah.
is going to work wherever. So you're not going to be subject to, possibly having those power outages and living in a place like that. Wherever the country,
Yeah.
there's places in those countries where, it's going to look and feel just like in America, or a very advanced
Yeah.
country. But if you're just you're making average American salary, and you think you're just going to go to any other place and your standard of living is going to stay the same or go up, you are sadly mistaken. Now, that's just with the standard of living. Now, as far as the religious environment, yeah, you probably could do better, but don't think that there's even in some Muslim countries where you might be looked at a little strange for, it's just like, for instance, there's some Muslim countries, you walk around with a beard like ours, you're gonna you're gonna be on a watch list.
God think he is. God
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so that, and then I would say on top of that is that you also will be. It's very hard to get citizenship. You're not gonna go to Saudi Arabia or Medina, Mecca. Yeah, you can go move there. And everybody's like, yeah, let's make hijra, but you got to leave the country every 3 months and then try to work your way back in because you're on a tourist visa. That's not a way to live. If you have a stable situation where you're at, I mean, I would say this, and I'll stop talking. Basically, if you're going to make hijra, if you're an American citizen, you're thinking about making hijra, it may be more uh, beneficial all the way around when you factor everything in to take that same energy of making hijra closer to people who you have the same ideology, same mindset within America, or try to do it that way, because you're going to be a third, fourth, or fifth, or 10th class citizen in the upper echelon Muslim countries. You're not getting citizenship unless you're very rich. Therefore, you're going to be in a situation where you might be able to tough it. Your wife and kids, I don't know. Maybe they can get used to it, but you're going to be a second, third class citizen. Imagine you're over here. You got a nice, good job. You're making $150,000. You're going to go over there. Would you work as a janitor like they do over here? They over there. They in their countries, they have good, jobs or whatever, businesses, and they're engineers and doctors. They come over here. Some people who are lawyers and all of that, they're coming over here and they're cleaning the buildings because they just it is better. So, I mean, like I said, it's probably a show that we could need to go dive deeper into. But I would say that it's a lot of energy and upheaval to make hijra somewhere. So you could consider making hijra within the country that you're in. Just think about that.
My real quick, my dream scenario, which is to I don't know, maybe one day we should just sit down and have a chat and we try to do it. But my dream scenario, so hear me out, is to basically have both, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go to one of these countries that allows you to, one of these Muslim majority countries that allows you to own property or whatever. And, because like, for instance, you could like buy like an apartment building, right? But home, you also need somewhere home. You always need to, no matter where you decide to go, you never know when, excuse my language, when shit will go down, right? When just new leader in charge, new laws or whatever, like, all right, we got to get up out of here, right? But so you always have to have something home, right? So my dream scenario is that, like you said, where you have a group of people, and not to shout out TM Way, but like they like we say all the time, they had the right framework to do something good, right? they got something on their hands that they could just only get out from under the heel of some cult leaders. But you have a homestead scenario somewhere where you just, you bought maybe a bunch of acres and you all own the property, but family members, friends that are all on the same page, you pretty much have your own house. It's not like a compound where houses are next to each other. We own 100 acres and these 5-6 acres are mine. Those 5-6 acres are yours. And it's about, we all can, that exists in America where you pretty much have your own Muslim community, right? Right there with just a handful of families that can maintain this, right? But you also have this place where you can go visit overseas, stay over there, learn the language, maybe go to some Muslim schools, come back whenever you want, and you have both. Because like the best situation that you can get in is people that are considering making hijra is that if you can keep making American money, but then move to a Muslim majority country that the cost of living is third world ish,
Yeah.
then you're in a good situation.
Yeah. I think the main part is actually for me is actually having citizenship because of the fluctuations in the stability just in the world in general. Every time you
Yeah.
turn around, so just like we got ICE agents running around here snatching up people, citizen or not, whatever. You look brown enough or whatever. Sorry, you speak some
Yeah.
Spanish, grab them. This type of thing. So if you don't have citizenship in whatever country, if the political situation changes a little, you might lose everything.
Yep.
If the economy, turns a little bit, and they say, well, it's because of all these Americans coming over here because and it's happened somewhere like in the
Just the
like
black
in the
ones though.
yeah. Especially listen, the first people that's gonna go, hey, listen, if we was white, we might be all right, but
Yeah, the black, you gotta go.
you already
You
know.
go.
We already did, like I said, the hierarchy. Get them out
Yep.
of here. Yeah, but like, and I'll just say this, like in the Philippines and some of these places where these rich white guys, they retire, they go get a little petite Asian wife or whatever, and they've got, they have their retirement, so they're living off of their retirement. So they're in their 60s, they got a little Filipina or a little Asian Vietnamese or whatever wife that's 20 something years old or whatever, and they're having the time of their lives. However, they're moving over there to these areas, and it's destroying the economy for the locals because things are getting, even if it gets 50% more expensive, that old white guy, it doesn't matter. He's like, he's got plenty of money, and for him that's still extremely cheap. But for the people who are over there now, they can't afford anything. So the apartments that these retirees are coming over there and buying, and now the little Filipina who used to be cool with her husband or whatever, now it's becoming expensive because they come over there and they get them all. So it's things like that, to where if the situation changes, like y'all over here with all this money, that's 10 50 times what the average salary makes, you make in a month, 50 times what the regular population makes in a year. Yeah, the first people that they're probably going to want to, at the best case scenario, we want you to leave. Worst case scenario is they burn your your apartment down and kill you.
yeah, exactly. I remember I was in Egypt when it was the first time I went overseas. We went to Egypt, and like like the way the money difference was and how much things cost was so different. Like pretty much living like a king over there. Like for those 3 weeks, it was living like a king. But it was a clear difference. Like for the first day I got there, like dinner, we just bought dinner for two for literally $7, like $7 American dollars. Right? Like, yeah, get whatever you want. Oh yeah, here you go. Yeah, buy that. Right? By like the third week, I'm haggling with these dudes over what would be like 25 cents in the no. Right? And then afterwards you think about, like, damn, why am I 25 cents? Why do I care?
Yeah. I mean, it's like when I first I was over I won't say the country that I was in, but I was with my wife, and we went to a restaurant. There was a waiter there, and it was his first day. And he was nice, and he was taking care of everything or whatever. And so I think I gave him a tip that was equivalent to like $10 American dollars.
Like that'd be normal over here.
Yeah.
Like regular, yeah.
And she was like, yo, this is more than this guy's making in a month. So why did you do that? I'm like, well, it's like this is his first day. Heck, he said his boss is probably going to be mad, like, that he got that much money just because it's like, yeah. And so it's like sometimes you don't, and so this is just an example of what can happen. Sometimes we're like, oh well, we'll go over here and we'll have American money, but be in a third world country. It's going to cause a fluctuation in that economy because if you're tipping like this, then it's going to raise the expectation. Might make people disgruntled. There's a lot of ripple effects that can happen. That's just one thing that, and unfortunately, I know some people try to teach you, say you're part colonizer, but it's like it's like the thought that I can just show up and it's not going to have effect on those people who are, it's like there's a ripple effect there that, right now we might be there and be like, yeah, we got this American money, we're living it up. Meanwhile, we don't realize it all. And that's another thing. I know we can go on forever, but that's another thing. You then gonna have haters all around you because they're like, American niggas. Because guess what? You with money. What comes with a person with money? Men with money, it always gonna attract the honey. So it's gonna be like you're gonna have you're gonna have more ops and haters than you probably would expect. And because you're not immersed in the culture and in the language, you might be getting set up, because this is what happened to a lot of these passport bros who going down to South America. They getting set up and killed, robbed. They waking up, they don't know where they at.
Drug.
Why? Because they thinking, yeah, we got this American money, they throwing it around or whatever. Really, at some point in time, the dudes over there is like, all right, you want to come with that American money? We're gonna show you this South American hospitality.
And there's a big we're going on, but whatever. There's a big difference, and I haven't had the occasion yet, but there's a big difference between visiting a place and living in a place. I remember I'd be visiting places and I try to imagine myself living there. And one of the things was like when I was in Egypt, and then my son was like 1, 2 that we went over there, and I remember I was like, I gotta get, like, this is the first time I traveled out the country. The only thing on my to-do list was like, I gotta get halal McDonald's, right? I was like, I gotta get, like, I ain't had McDonald's since I was like an infant, like when we used to eat halal. I need to get one just to see, right? The closest one was like 3 miles away. I had my son on my shoulders. I just walked 3 miles, just walking, right? But it made me think, and I was like looking at the stores, looking at like whatever, and like you said, there's things that living in a different country that you're not gonna know that it's an issue until you actually experience it. Because I was walking with my son on my shoulders, I was like, oh, I should just buy a stroller, right? And you think you could just, no, like it doesn't work like that. At least in that section, like you have to go to a stroller specific store that may be like 10 or 15 miles somewhere else that you would go. Like, it's not like you go to a department store and like find, that's how it was in the air. But like there's little things like that you're like, oh, like in America, I just go down to Walmart or whatever. It's gonna have everything I need, and I can just get it. I get that. Yeah. You go to the grocery store, they might only have like maybe a certain inventory of products. We're like, well, we're eating that for dinner tonight, so we're not gonna, you know.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Like just certain things that you would think of that you would probably like, I'm gonna go to Walmart and you're gonna be able to get 10 different type of items that are not even related, or you don't even, like, you think about like Lowe's or Home Depot or places like that where you get, there's no place like that in the whole city, or even in the adjacent cities. I was like, I'm like, so what do you do when you need a hammer, or just when you need to
you gotta know the guy who sells hammers.
there's literally some guy who, he may or may not have one that day, but it's true. Like you said, they have these little shops and basically that sell maybe something specific, but like for a lot of things, it's just not there. It's just not available. So, you just, with living in another country, getting outside of being a tourist there, is a different ball game.
Well, this guy, maybe he should have considered another country. So we have a father, Rafael DL, avoided paying more than 8,600 pounds in child maintenance after falsely denying paternity and arranging for a friend to take a DNA test in his place, paying him 50 pounds for petrol to attend the appointment. When the fraudulent result wrongly claimed he was not the father, he then messaged the child's mother. So explain it
Listen, as much we are 100% against paternity fraud of any kind. We don't forget that. But as many times as men have been tricked, I feel like this is at least our get back.
Yeah, exactly. We get a get back. This is a get back.
Yeah.
I mean, but shout out to, I mean, the real hero in this is the friend is like, yeah, just give me $50 for gas.
Hey, listen, man. Sometimes it might have been a situation where, I mean, well, think about it. Listen, I won't put it on you. I won't put the pressure on you, but I'll just say, if you were in a situation where we knew, man, this lady is really gonna, she's hell-bent on ruining your life. She's mad. She's vindictive. She's just, she's not a good person.
Right.
And, and if a situation like this, I'd do it for you. I'd be like, yeah, listen, just pay me a ticket. I'm gonna hey, listen, give me a round trip ticket. I'll show up. Yes, I'm Dr. Griffin. Yeah, where I need to go. I would do it. I would if the person was bad enough. Like, I know that this is a terrible person and what she's doing is wrong. Even though it's like, okay, these are your kids, but what she's doing or what she's attempting to do is wrong. Yeah, I'll do it in a heartbeat.
Well, you just gotta like, listen, I'm gonna do this for you, right? But after we do it, you hit it with you got some explaining to do, but then you also play the hero, like, but I'm still gonna help you out when I can. Right? Yeah, I'm gonna be their dad. I'm gonna still be their dad.
I'm still gonna be a father to him, but I'm not even gonna say nothing. Yeah, but the thing is, if that lady did not make a fuss about it, then hey.
Here's the thing, though, right? And a man that's willing to do all this to get out of paying, right? If she probably just left him alone, like, he would actually just take care of his kids, probably. Mm-hmm. 9 times out of 10, that's how most men are. Or if they could take care of their children on their own accord without being forced, without being, someone in their hands in the pocket, they're going to do it.
Yeah, but I have very rarely, very, very rarely heard of a situation or seen a situation or experienced a situation where a man just in and of itself said, I don't want nothing to do with this kid. It always has to do with him not wanting to deal with the mother. Like, he'd be like, man, listen, either he is coerced or shamed into actually maintaining a relationship with her to see the kid. They do that sometimes. If you're not going to spend some time with me, then no, you can't see your kid. They do that.
Right.
Or it's like she gives him such a hard time, even having to call her or coordinate with her, with the child, then he, doesn't want to even have to go through that. The child don't got a phone. He got to call the mother. He actually has a conversation with her to coordinate this. And so it's like, I don't want to deal with her. And it's just not that big a deal right now at the child as they're growing up, whatever. Or the mother is basically making it so hard for him to even see the child. It's like, it's not worth the effort. It's not worth the effort. So a lot of times it's that, and that's that a lot of people don't know, or it's not out there. It's just like, oh, he hasn't seen his son in a month. Well, you didn't say that you're only going to let me see my child at a specific time for a specific amount of time and under these conditions. Yeah, that's really high. But is it true that he hasn't seen it for a month? Yes, but that other part is not put in there. So I haven't seen it where a father the mother is pushing the child on him and trying to get in this, and he just like, nah, keep that child away from me. It's not happened. I think it's extremely rare.
The only time I've seen it happen is when it still was connected to the guy's relationship with the mother. Mm-hmm. Is that the guy was so butthurt, like so obsessed and so angry at the mother for leaving him, that he used it as a way like I'm gonna punish her by, I don't want nothing to do with our kid.
Wow.
So it was still like, and in that case, it's like, okay, do we really want that dude around the kid anyway, right? But even then, after he got over the butthurt, he was still trying to be involved in his kid's life. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's only seen that in one. It might be a one offer, but it's funny what you mentioned about like, they'll say the part about like, oh, he doesn't see his kid in a month, but then they don't give any of the backstory. So like, it's funny. So I was in court, right? And my ex, they bring up, because it's only one-sided when they testify. So you can't just like stand up and say, I object, that's not true, right? You just got to sit there and listen to the false. So like, oh God, here we go. So they try to bring up like, oh, first back up. On my custody order, each parent gets we get 2 weeks of uninterrupted parenting time for vacations, right? And we get to schedule them and pick the times or whatever. So I schedule my times and we go like whether to Virginia or we go on a trip or somewhere for a week. She schedules her vacations, but doesn't go anywhere. Just you simply use it as a tactic to just keep the kids away from me for 3 weeks because of how the visitation goes. So whenever she takes a vacation, I don't see the kids for 3 weeks. Now, mind you, we've been doing this for years. One of the issues is that whenever I try to talk to the kids on the phone, I get denied, ignored. So I can send messages, can I speak to the kids, have the kids call me, they don't call. So what do you think the natural reaction is after going through years of that is, I'm just going to stop asking. Right?
Yeah.
So we get to court and she brings up, oh, I had the kids for vacation and he didn't ask to speak to the kids for 3 weeks. Nigga, because every time I did try to speak to the kids, I never did. So why would I ask this time? But it's just a clear example of like, okay, I'm going to ignore all the stuff I'm doing to prevent you from talking to the kids, but then just talk about how you actually don't talk to the kids, knowing damn well you're the reason why the father doesn't speak to the kids because you're the one playing gatekeeper to the children.
Yeah,
And
I mean, and that's just one of the things, man. The more you experience, just life as an adult, and also and understand, about Islam, you realize how perfect Islam is to where it makes it to where the woman is the one who cares and has the child in her, environment as long as she's not married.
Right.
But the jurisdiction, the final say on what goes on with the kids is with the father. So it's the balance there, right? So the mother can't say, no, you can't see the kids at this time or that time or whatever. She has to accommodate that. Yeah, the kids are with her, but if the father says, hey, listen, at 7:00, I'm gonna be, wanting to do something with the kids, and that's what's gonna happen. That's what happens. Now he can't, take them if she's unmarried or whatever. He can't just take them and say, I'm gonna, I'm not bringing the kids back. But as far as if he says, listen, at 4:00 we're gonna go to the park for 2 hours and practice tackling or whatever. I mean, that's what's happening. That's what's supposed to happen, and she's supposed to accommodate that. Hey, be ready at 4:00. Your father's going to take you, then he's going to bring you back or whatever. That way it's a balance. You don't have to worry about someone putting due conditions on the father for when and how he sees a child, and you don't have to worry about what the mother always said. Well, he's going to take my child. Well, he can't. So it's a perfect balance actually if it's done that way, and really it makes it conducive for everybody to be happy. If the mother had the mindset of whatever the child needs, I'll tell the father will buy the clothes, the food, or whatever that he needs and do it. The father will be happy to do that. What he won't be happy to do is give you a bunch of money and get you spend it anyway. Yeah. So that's the way, it goes. And if the mother has the children with her and the father says, hey, at this time, I'm going to do this with the children or whatever, we'll be doing it for this time, and then they'll be back. It works perfectly. It's a perfect situation. I think everybody would actually be happy. The only people that would be unhappy with that type of arrangement is someone who wants to take advantage or use the children as a tool against or weaponize them against the other. That's the only people that wouldn't be happy in that scenario.
Well, I wonder if there's any studies out there. I want to maybe look when we get off the show, but I'm willing to bet to put this, I guess you could say hypothesis or premise, whatever the word is out there, that the women that don't do that, right? That don't give up whatever custody or control or whatever word you want to put in, like the women that don't give the father the rights, they actually are the most miserable women out there, right? Because look what happens. Whether they have good intentions or not, right? Because some women just fall into the boat of like, I just can't see myself separated from my children. right? So so whether you have good intentions or not, however, just think about it. Because when you tell other women that have common sense about some of the situations that men go through, the common thing that they say is, I would be giving you my kids so I can have some time for myself. If they're married, they're like, yeah, please take the kids for a month while we go on have some husband-wife time, right? You have a free babysitter. And like these type of women that actually they actually have good lives after divorce because they realize like, no, I have a life. My kids, me just trying to fight to keep my kids, one, is preventing me from getting married. If they do get married, it's preventing me from having a good relationship with my husband and finding happiness there, right? And all this stuff I'm going through to basically take the rights of their father and all, it's actually making me a miserable person. I have no friends, no one. You look at these people and you could probably just make a cookie cutter of all their situations. They're sad, they're miserable, they're depressed, they have no lives. And at the end of the day, women, your kids are going to leave you anyway. Yes. They're going to leave you in a few, like before you blink an eye, they're going to leave you. And you did all that. And then by the time they leave you, you're stuck with no life. And your only life is your children. Your best friend is your daughter or your son. And you're trying to tag along on their lives when they get married and try to move on with them. So not only did you hinder your own life, you're trying to hinder their life from them becoming successful. Like it's really like if I gave you my ex's whole situation and the children's, it's like none of them realize like they're effing up. Right. You just look at their lives like, and I was like, yeah, well, they can't see it. They think they're just living great. But it's really a testament that you look at all these women that do this and they all have miserable lives by any account, financially, emotionally, spiritually, any metric you use, you'll see like, yeah, they're not doing good.
I mean, they're some of the worst people on the planet. I mean, I have not heard of or come across any people like that they are some of the worst human beings you will find. And you know, the thing is, and sometimes it's human nature for a woman anyway, to have this very strong attachment to their children. But, you know, if you look at this, right, the woman who oppresses her ex-husband and, you know, keeps the children from him, won't give him custody, or you puts them on child support and does these tricks to steal his wealth and to you know, be vindictive against him. Just think of this, women, for 1 second. If you get with another man, if you hope to have another husband, if he knows that you're this type of person, that you're doing this to your ex-husband, and if he doesn't know, if he doesn't do that, at least that much investigation, like the first thing that you ask is, what's the deal with your children and what's the relationship with the father? That's the first thing that should be asked, you know, if the woman already has children. But if you get with a man and he knows about this and still wants to marry, he knows you're like this and still wants to marry you, then he's just an opportunist. He just wants some, you know, some intimacy, but he either won't want to be with you long term. And probably will leave eventually, or he's a terrible person himself. But if he's a good man, if he's a good person, he will not stay. He won't marry you. He won't be with you. He will not deal with you. I mean, could you imagine you looking for a wife, Dr. Griffin, and you're like, okay, she's wonderful, she's a good Muslim and beautiful and whatever you like. And you say, oh, you know what, you're so you got, you know, you've got 2 children, 3 children, whatever, you know. What's the deal with their father? Well, listen, I put him on child support, and I have this house because I got half of it in the divorce, and he's paying me alimony and everything. So she's, you know, she gives us whatever. And you talk to him, and he's like, I don't need, because of the court order or whatever, I don't even get to see my children, but you know, on the weekends and summers or whatever. And nah, man, they just take the money out of my check or whatever, and you know, they give it to her and she does whatever with it. And he gives you the whole the normal spiel or whatever. Are you going to be like, yeah, I do it, and it's no problem? I mean, the way that she's treating him, and you think, what, you know, I mean, you wouldn't even consider, right? I mean, you're not going to consider.
Not even consider. As soon as she said, "Oh, I put him on child support," when she blinked, I would have been gone. Like, Oh, where'd he go? Like those disappearing We're gone.
As soon as he said child support, hey, look over there.
Right, hold that thought.
Yeah, so I mean, so for these type of women, you will never be able to get a good man, because when he does at least a little investigation into how you treat your ex-husband and how you deal with those children, in regards to him, he won't want anything to do with you. So you're going to be pigeonholed into the worst of the worst, the lowest level of men. And listen, we can go over examples. We won't say any names. We can go over examples. The type of people who do this, they wind up with the worst dudes on the planet.
Literally. But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing too. They end up with the worst dudes on the planet, and then the worst dudes on the planet leave them too. Like, and it's like, and it's crazy because like having the experience in these situations, and knowing of mine and others and countless others of individuals that go through these situations, you see the same patterns going over and over. And you could just like like nowadays you could bet on anything, right? You could go on some kind of website and you could bet on like how much snow is going to fall tomorrow, right? They like they should have one where you can just bet on relationships, right? You put them up. We would make a killing.
Oh my goodness.
Nope, that ain't making it, right?
It ain't gonna make it, but it's sad, it's unfortunate, but these women, they go into, they wind up in this cycle. And then either you have the woman who if they do try to get like I said, I know we can go on. I'll try to be quick. Listen, what happens is they either will wind up with the worst dudes on the planet, or they will be the type of person that will think, I have to have someone who is equal to, or they really need to be better. I'll settle for someone equal to my ex-husband.
Yeah.
But they have to be better than him because they're trying to prove something to them. So they wind up single forever. And then they will, with those children who they, like how we said, they're eventually going to leave you. But that's what you think. In their mind, they're thinking, no, they're never going to leave me. So they wind up living vicariously through their sons, and they have a son husband now. Or they will, because they will keep their daughters close, and they will ruin their daughters' relationships, because they'll be the type of mother that would say, how could you leave me? And they will shame their daughter for getting married and moving on until they ruin their relationship so they can stay with them. This is the type of person, these are the type of people that will these child support, and there's some instances that a mother can or should pursue child support if she's not getting any support. I'm not saying every scenario, but a lot of these people who weaponize the child support system, they're the same types of people that will wind up, ruining their kids' lives as well, trying to hang on to them and trying to keep them, because if they don't have a good man, or the man that they think they should have, then the only thing they got to hold on to is those kids. That's the only thing that they can live through. So they're ruining them kids' lives, turning them, they wind up deadbeats. They want to have a no father, no direction. It's just it's a cycle. We could go on and on and on. But the main thing is, be a good person, and maybe some good will happen with you. But you got to start with the things that are right. You be terrible and treat other people terrible. You're going to see, you're going to wind up attracting, and the only people who deal with you are terrible people.
You know what's interesting, right? The ones that get caught up in, like, I can't let go of my kids, right? If they had that much dedication to their kids in their first marriage, they probably wouldn't be divorced. It's just so mind-boggling, man. Oh goodness. But we'll share this last one. It's actually a good story. We'll end on this one. Tyrese, if y'all remember, we actually probably did a little clip on him when he was like, why $15,000? And he was crying about the child support and not seeing his kid, and we were clowning him a lot for it. But his daughter, Shyla Gibson, chose to stay with her father at 18, leading to the end of child support. So this is a success case, and I will tell you guys that are out there that are in these situations where there's child support is one thing, but we're talking about parental alienation, where There's a parent that's usually the mothers, of course, that are trying to keep the child or alienate the child away from their father. And we can do what we can as parents to try to, like, keep that family bond, keep that bond between the child and the parent. But more often than not, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You're in a losing situation. And this is the best you can hope for, that when they actually do get of age and they start thinking of things and seeing things with a more mature mind, they actually wake up to the truth and then try to reconnect with the father. This doesn't happen in every situation, but I am glad to see it happen where, again, just years ago, we had Tyrese crying online about the situation, and to see that his daughter, when she grew up, was like, I want to be with my dad. Very happy to see that.
I would say that lots of times, this is, I mean, it's good to see this happen, but a lot of times, when a child is being alienated by one parent or another, it doesn't end up like this. But usually, if like we said, the parent, usually the mother, sorry, that is like that and weaponizing the children and child support and these type of things, they're bad people. These are bad people. And eventually, sometimes the children realize, hey, you're actually the bad person. And and sometimes they do get in thing where they do love their mother and they don't want to disappoint them, but they see, hey, this is a bad person. And if they're advanced in their maturity and understanding, then they'll realize this as adolescents. Sometimes even as 12 or 13 years old, a son or a daughter will be like, I don't want to stay with my mother. I want to, because they see the tactics that are being used. But a lot of times kids, they don't see it. And a lot of times the child that's been alienated, the levels in which they didn't realize, hey, this parent was alienating me against the other, is when they get to a point where they get older, usually is above 18 or about that age, where they start becoming an adult, and adult type of things start to develop in their life. And they start to see, my mother is actually not really adulting very well.
Right.
And they're trying to they see, well, I see the alienation. So then they will say, hey, I want to, be with my father. Or the next level where it happens is when that child starts to have relationships, or whatever. When they get to a certain age, they start having, hopefully a husband or a wife or whatever. And they see some of the same struggles that they start to go through. And then they realize that who the problem was. And then they like, hey, they come back and, hey, dad, or, I see what's up. And then they come back around after they come out of that alienation. But a lot of times it doesn't happen until they start having children. Then they can see the situation that they were put in, and they see it. But the pinnacle of it is when they wind up becoming a parent that gets alienated against, and then they really see it. They're like, oh, now I see. Sometimes it's too late. It's 20 or 30 years later, but then they're like, this is what happened. I got alienated against my father, 30 years ago. And now they're in a situation where the alienation is taking place and they're getting alienated. And now they're like, oh man, I see, this is what happened. And sadly, it's like, by then it's too late.
Yep, exactly. So with that, join us again next week and we'll have some more topics. We are preparing, again, people that are, that know a little bit more about in the Islamic culture and different countries and different ethnicities about the marriage crisis that single women, divorcees are facing. Contact us. We want to hear your input. We're going to be doing a series on that. We're just getting all the information and data together. So look forward to that. And we're going to do a whole series on it and go deep on it. It's not as simple as, people just going out here and looking for hotel marriages. It's a very deep phenomenon that we're going to delve deep onto, and people might have some different positions after we present all the information about these secret misyar type marriages that are occurring. So tune in next time. And with that, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.